Hello, Dheeraj, and thank you for joining us on the SaaS Playbook, where we talk about the landscape of the SaaS industry, but also unpolished insights directly from founders and leaders within the space. So, for those who don't know, Dheeraj is one of the co-owners and founders at Ravian.ai, and we're going to deep dive into a bit of what they're building at the moment. Dheeraj, before I get into the questions, I'd love a quick, brief introduction about yourself and about how you even got to Ravian in the first place.
All right, Jenny, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And about me, I have 10 years experience working into data science and AI, right? I have worked with large scale companies like Pfizer, Wipro, MicroStrategy, and all of that, right? While building and working during this 10 years, we have faced a lot many challenges and seen how the whole AI industry has grown from normal ML based solution to agentic AI to generative AI and all of that.
Before Ravian, you spent years in data science, deep in data science. What is a frustration or a repeated moment that made you realize, hey, this way of working doesn't really scale for humans?
Absolutely. So, see, it's not about working as a data scientist, right? It is about the complete data life cycle, right? Where you have to understand what's the problem you're trying to solve, right? And then you have to go and get those data sitting across multiple databases. Then the whole process requires you to manually clean it, process it, build your model, do the deployment, and finally get to the insights and recommendations which you are looking for. What happens is, as a human, to deliver a single project of a data scientist. It takes usually 3 to 6 months because you are juggling between multiple tools, multiple systems, and all of that. And it's really frustrating, right? You are continuously testing multiple hypotheses and all of that. So that's when it clicked us that this humanly will not be possible to scale it, and there is requirement of automating this whole end-to-end process. And that's how we got into solving this complex problem as well.
Think from someone who hasn't dealt much in data science themselves, I'm probably going to ask as a general public, but you know, I think what you touched on there is actually quite a unique perspective in the sense that if we haven't had this conversation, I wouldn't have known what was really involved in the process. And as you were listening now, I'm like, wow, I would never even have thought that in terms of launching and scaling, these were the factors that you have to actually analyze. So I think I think you're the first data scientist actually on the podcast. So there's going to be some really interesting perspectives and insights that you're going to share today, Dheeraj, no doubt. Just with Ravian, Ravian was built around acting as an execution partner rather than a replacement. What problem were you personally trying to solve when you decided to build it?
See, when solutions like a lot of chat-based solutions came with launch of Chat GPT or maybe Anthropic and all, what we faced is these are token predictor. That means whenever something you ask to them, they will generate a lot of tokens around it, and they will respond to you in text. Now, even with this good technology, there was a lot of problem to copying and pasting all those output across different solutions. For example, let's say if you want to create a response for an email, right? You will take that email, give it to OpenAI. OpenAI will generate a response. You'll copy that and paste it into Gmail. So this to and fro was eating up a lot of time, and it makes these technologies should be enabling us to smoothly do the transition, and that's how Ravian AI was born. When we see that human are still doing the glue work, right, switching between multiple tools, then we started building this artificial general agent, which can connect with your apps depending on the task which you are providing. It can plan it, break it down into smaller subtasks, do that work end to end for you, and gives you the final output you are looking for. So it is going to democratize AI for normal humans, not only to developers. Normal human will be able to, build software, build data science model, they can even create PPTs, they can generate responses and all of that from a single platform. That's what Ravian AI actually is.
I think you touched it on the head there because I know for a fact there's people that are going to be watching this podcast that still do it manually.
Absolutely.
And I think you used a perfect example because I know just from the top of my head, even just my inner circle, they still do it manually in that case. Obviously, with the obvious M dashes and all of that you see. Does Ravian have contextual basis to obviously understand the user?
So what we have done is we have trained it the way, like we have, while training the Ravian, we have trained it the way, taken the inspiration from how human works, right? And then that's how it is. Like whenever you give the requirement, what it does is it breaks down the request into multiple parts, right? Whenever there is an ambiguous request, right, where it need much more context, it have a it have a component where it keeps human in the loop as well. So for anywhere where is the context is not very much clear, the AI comes back and asks you for clarifications, right? And then when you provide that clarification, it builds the context for those particular tasks and keeps it in its internal memory as well to contextualize and personalize it for you.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, I think, well, that was going to be my next question. In terms of if it is stored data and stored memory, and then therefore give you the native responses. Do you find that from your perspective as a technical director or a technical founder, why now? And what has changed in the past 12 to 24 months that has made this kind of product finally possible?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So Ravian runs on your own computer, right? That means you can install Ravian on your computer and it will use your computer resources to run it, right? The perspective which we are bringing in is AI should not be only with the technical people, right? It should be easy to use and democratize to everyone who wants to leverage, to a common person. That's the reason we started building it. The best time is because the models have became, very advanced in nature. Now we can leverage those models and create a system by combining agents, models, and tools, which creates an ecosystem of an application where normal people does not have to go and configure things, write codes manually, and all of that. It's a single one interface application. You just download it, start delegating the task. It's very simple. You just convert your request into a plain English prompt and give it to the AI. AI figures out the rest of the thing. Like Raven AI figures out the rest of the thing. What tools it has to call, where it has to code, how it has to send emails or respond to your request, right? So even from complex work like building a complete end-to-end software to building a data science model for you, or a normal thing like sending an email or generating an email, it does end-to-end for you.
Uh-huh. Two questions on the back of that answer, Dheeraj. Is Ravian sort of more focused on direct to consumer model, or can it be deployed within enterprises, but still having that autonomy from obviously employee to employee? But also, I've forgotten the second part. But if you answer that one, hopefully I remember the
Absolutely,
second
I'll
part
tell
of
you.
that question.
So we are majorly enterprise focused, where we want to help each and individual employees within an enterprise. But parallelly, we are also letting prosumers use our product to automate a lot of work, or like use the power of Raviana to expedite their work as well in their own day-to-day life.
Now I do remember the second part of that question. So when it comes to implementation, you said if it's a native tool that you download to your desktop. In terms of connecting into the apps that people use, because as you know, there's going to be lots of people that use lots of different apps, right, and lots of different tools. How do you then, in terms of the API links, do you help them with the implementation and setup phase, or is it quite easy to walk through from a consumer perspective? Diraj's connection has just been lost. So please be patient as he rejoins us. Take time for a sip of water while we wait. While I have you here, if there are any SaaS leaders in the space or SaaS adjacent space that you would love to see on this podcast, please comment them below. And we'll try our best to get them on the podcast. Ravian is a native tool that can be downloaded onto the desktop. I was asking sort of more on the implementation and the connection to different tools and apps that people currently use in their tech stack. Is that something that you help them implement, or is it quite easy to navigate from a consumer perspective?
It's very, very easy to connect with your third-party apps. Simply, you have the way you use your credentials to log in, right? For example, in Gmail, you directly log in with the Gmail credentials. So there are connectors. You just click on connect. It will autonomously redirect you to the application whatever the application you are using. You provide your credential and that's it. The connection is done.
That's really handy because I know for a fact, especially when I'm signing up for a new tool, as you do, and then it makes things a lot more smoother when you can actually directly connect, and it redirects you to obviously your login, put your credentials in. It automatically rediverts back to wherever you were initially. That makes the adoption a lot less frictional, right? And I think that's a barrier that you would have already thought about prior to launching Ravian.
Absolutely, we are trying to keep entry barrier for the users or initial experiences pretty smooth so that people can understand and leverage 100% of what Ravian AI can do, right? So the journey has to be perfectly smooth. We have put a lot of research, and we have spoke to a lot of initial beta users to understand their way of using it, and once we had those insights, we are implementing this continuously to improve our user experiences as well.
When I talk about this kind of topic to a lot of founders and a lot of users, is the same theme comes up. The feedback loop is almost as important as the actual build itself, because you have these ideas as the builders trying to build something and you're trying to close a gap, right? But unless you're actually an end user and can experience it firsthand, there's no way for you to keep that or be on the forefront to fix it prior to going to market. It will never be perfect, right? And that's a consistent theme that I see with a lot of people who are on the podcast who are a lot more technical. They said there's people who say, hey, just build it and bring to the market and then let them, give us the feedback to in what features that they actually want and what they're actually going to use, rather than become a feature factory and they don't even need any of it. So
Yeah. So building for us is a continuous process, but this process is ultimately will not complete if you're not keeping your users in the loop. So we always keep the users in the loop.
yeah, and I think the users will feel comfortable knowing that their feedback is actually going towards a more innovative approach from Ravian. As you move toward a global launch, where do you feel the real scaling pressure is right now? Would that be in product maturity, go to market, trust, or even just as simple as internal capacity?
So for us, it's not one thing. When you have a very ambitious product, all the pillars should be equally performing. Otherwise, if something is lagging, you will not be able to push ahead with the same scale. So we are trying to balance all the things at once: product, GTM, feedbacks, customer experience, everything at once, and we are trying to scale it.
And you mentioned in one of our previous conversations that you're based in India, so effectively you're building from India. But building from India while selling into the US is quite a unique position. But what has surprised you most about scaling across different geographies, and what's been harder than you actually expected initially?
All right. So initially, we thought that thing which surprised us is that we thought that it will be hard for us to at least talk to the customers, right? But what we realized is when we reached out to the people sitting in not only West, Middle East, and all of that, right, they are able to understand the pain point which we are solving, and they're quickly grabbing up the opportunity to experience the product firsthand, right? The
Mm.
biggest challenge which is we are facing as of now is catering to the demand, right? We are getting a lot of demands, and we are a very small team, so just trying to do like 200% of what we can do while keeping the team small.
Does that also mean, Dheeraj, it probably means you won't be having much of a break over this festive holiday period?
So I don't see my calendars empty, so probably yes.
25 was a huge year for AI, right? It was massive, quite innovative, but moved at extreme pace. So, what looks like in 2026, who knows? But I think it's going to be another massive year for AI as we almost have to overcorrect all the bugs and all the overconsumption and overcreation within the AI space. So I'm interested, and I'll keep tabs with Ravian to see what's been going on. How do you guys overcome the operational and the implementation side? But if you were speaking, and this is the last question for you, Dheeraj, and we've been able to get through these pretty quickly because I think you've been so succinct. But if you were speaking to another founder who's early in their journey, and they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by AI, the speed that it goes, and also the constant change. What principle or mindset would you want them to hold on to?
So there are two things. One, first is that you keep your fundamentals right, right? Try to understand what's the problem you are solving, actual pain point. Continuously build on that. And the second is when you're creating an enterprise or a business or a startup, right? It's not a sprint, right? It's a marathon, right? So you have to be ready for ups and downs and lows, but you have to continuously keep running, right? So that's what they have to keep in mind.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's beautiful to remember. A lot of people think like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to build, go to market, and then I'll just revenue raise, make $1 million, and I'll leave and I'll start build and sell, build and sell. And I just don't think that's sustainable if you want to create something meaningful.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of the people who I've spoken thus far say the exact same thing. You have to keep your user end experience and the core focus with feedback loops, but also always being able to be nimble within this space. And I think that's a beautiful thing about this industry is we can afford to be nimble, and you have to pivot and pivot extremely fast because of how the rate at which things change, right? And it's an interesting landscape, and I'm interested to see how Ravian's going to unfold and what's in store for Ravian in 2026 and beyond. Thank you so much, Dheeraj, for sharing your insights. Definitely more from an analytical perspective. I think you're the first, and you certainly opened up my eyes to see certain things that I would have never thought of otherwise. But I think people who watch this podcast, or at least watch this episode, can also take a few notes and be like, hey, we actually need to be a little bit more methodical in the way that we build and what we build and how we deliver that to the market.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Jenny. It was pleasure talking to you, and it's always a new learning whenever I'm sitting with you and talking to you.